Oh, why are you always broken?
What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. We might get the WRX back on the road today. Also, I figured I'd mention this because I'm wearing it. Check out this new freaking hat, boys. My brother got this for me for Christmas. Should we release these? I don't know, they're pretty sick. The Something Cool maroon hoodie is still probably one of my favorites too, even though this thing's full of stains from working on this damn Subaru. Another thing you guys might notice is this camera lens. You guys aren't eating my face anymore. The camera actually is a little bit further away. You guys aren't sitting there like this all the time. So let me know which one you guys prefer. If you guys prefer it nice and close up in the videos, or if you guys like it a little bit further away, you can see more of my hand actions. It's just more of like a vlog style video, even though I don't do vlogs. We just build cars. So in today's video, the very first thing that I want to do is take care of our rear axle situation. If you guys caught my last video, you would know that the right rear axle popped out of the rear diff of this car going like 120 kilometers an hour, which was not fun. So I got a new right rear axle. Even though the CV boot's only torn on that axle, I could just reboot it and repack it with grease. It would probably be good. I'm probably still going to do that just to keep that axle as a spare, but I ended up getting a whole new axle because it was only like 120 bucks anyways. And I was actually able to get parts. So we got two new circlips for the rear diff in this car, which is going to be really shitty to do. I also got the little 90-degree coolant hose that goes under your intake manifold to the lower portion of your expansion tank. It just sits right underneath there. And it's leaking onto the block and it smells like coolant. So I want to get that fixed. But first, let's take care of these rear axles. Let's try and get these circlips popped out of the rear diff, which is really going to suck because if you look at these in the bag, there's nowhere to get snap ring pliers on. So I'm going to have to go in there with like a flathead screwdriver and try and pop it out. But the problem with that is, and there is no way you guys are going to be able to see this, but that snap ring sits inside of the side gears of the diff, and the only easy way to get that out is to rip the entire diff apart, which I do not want to do at all. So I'm going to try and fish in there with a flathead screwdriver and see if I can get that snap ring popped out and see if we can work a new one in there. This is going to be tough. Holy shit, I did it. I was actually able to get that out, but I had to bend the living piss out of it. As you guys can see, this is the new one. That's the one I pulled out. So now we got to try and get the new one back into the groove inside of there without bending it to look like that. It needs to completely maintain that exact shape in order to hold the axle in there. Holy shit, I did it, first of all. And second of all, that really sucked. So I got the diff in a vise now. And if you guys look inside of there, you can kind of see the clip. It's sticking out pretty good now. That's a new one I put in. I had to bend the shit out of it to get it in there. Then I bent it out quite a bit once it was in. Then I took this new axle, slammed it in there, and you guys can already tell by me denting this piece. It was absolute hell to get it back out, but I had to get it back out because I didn't put the axle seal in yet. So since that one was bent and it held really strong, what I'm gonna do is leave the axle seal in the other side, and then all I'm going to do is stick a flathead screwdriver in there, try and bend it in a little bit, not so it's as kinked as this, but bend it in a little bit so that it's going to grab around the axle more, but not in enough that it's going to pop out of the side gears inside of the diff. So yeah, this should work. Well, it looks like the diff's not going in today. This axle seal is ripped in one spot right here that I did not notice. So I don't want to put this back in and chance that that's going to leak, so I'm going to get an axle seal tomorrow. And I tried bending the clip on the inside a little bit, and turns out they don't really like to bend because one piece of the clip is sitting right here. So it looks like I got to replace this side now. The problem is I don't know where the other part of the clip is. I picked the diff up and shook it a little bit, and I can hear it rattling around in there. So hopefully I can shake it and it'll fall out of the axle hole or something. I can literally hear it shaking. It's not shaking anymore though. Wait a minute. These things have magnetic drain plugs. I wonder if it fell to the bottom. No way, dude. That is freaking hilarious. Check this out. It literally fell all the way down to the bottom of the diff and landed on the freaking drain plug. Let's go, baby. Magnetic drain plugs for the win. There's probably still some metal shavings in there, but I'm gonna spray some brake clean in the diff and then spin the pinion gear so the gears spin, and then hopefully all the metal shavings will fall to the bottom of the diff, the metal drain plug will catch it, and then we're good to go. First of all, since we're not reusing this axle seal, let's get this thing popped out. It's already screwed anyways. Send it. Hey, that was easy. There's a little tiny rip in it. You can barely see it. But I don't like putting something back in the car if it's hard to get at again and it's a little sus. So since this is a little sus, we're gonna replace it. That has to wait till tomorrow now. So the last thing we can do is get this freaking clip put in on this side, which I am going to do off of camera because this is gonna take forever. And you guys already watched me do it once. So let's get the stock intake swap back in this thing.
Which honestly should be a pretty quick swap. All I gotta do is loosen off that T-bolt clamp. We're gonna take that little 10 mil off down there that's holding the cold air intake on, unplug the MAP sensor, then this whole intake will come out. Then I gotta jack the right front portion of the car up. Probably gonna have to take the wheel off, I think, pull the fender liner back, just so that I can get this piece here installed. Those two holes right there, and this little intake chamber thing is gonna sit inside of the quarter panel. These two pieces are gonna sit back on the fender right there. Then off camera, I already installed some rib nuts and laid a layer of primer where those old holes were. This one was pretty messed up, but someone decided to break some rusty ass bolts in there. So I had to drill it out oversized, put some rib nuts in. Then this factory piece will sit right there, just like that. And then we can get the stock intake box slapped back on there,
so that she can be a good, reliable daily, like it's supposed to be, and it hasn't been at all yet.
Damn, that looks like a stock Subaru engine again. I got 90% of the stock intake installed, and I also swapped out that 90-degree coolant hose right under the expansion tank, just so that I didn't have to drain all the coolant out of the car. I ended up just sucking all the coolant out of the expansion tank, just with a little coolant tester, and it took like 5 minutes to suck it all out, but it was 10 times better than draining all the coolant and bleeding it again. So that little hose down there with the hose clamp is the one I swapped out. So now, hopefully she doesn't leak no more. This is the hose that was in it, and it was pretty much kinked 90 degrees, just like that. So the last piece that we got to get installed for the stock intake on this thing is that piece that sits in the fender. We finally got the stock intake completely installed. That is 10 times harder than installing a cold air intake, but she's back to factory now, so we don't need a tune on this thing. We can just run on the factory tune and she'll be nice and reliable.
About as reliable as a Subaru can get. Now, since we're done that, I want to get this boost gauge installed. And it should be pretty simple, other than the fact that this whole piece here is actually too long for the steering column trim piece. So if I set this boost gauge right here, which is where I want to put it, from my vision, the only thing that blocks is just the odometer reading and my trip meter, which is no big deal. I can just sit up a little bit and then I can see it. So if I want to mount it right here, this trim piece is actually too long and it's going to hit at the back there into the trim piece for the gauge cluster. So when I install this, I need to install it flush with this line up here, and then we're gonna have to trim off this whole back section. So it's not gonna be nice and clean and a nice slope at the back like it is right now because it's too long. So this is gonna have an exposed back to it, but that's okay. I honestly don't really care because we're gonna run the wires down through this hole anyways, and I'm probably gonna take the switch off for the park lights, or I'll just drill another hole in this. And if I mess up, it's not really a big deal because I have another spare steering column trim piece thing, whatever you want to call it. So literally all we have to do to install this is run this new vacuum line that I got here through the firewall of the car, and then we are gonna tee it in to the spot where they already have the boost gauge teed in, which is right off of the factory bypass valve vacuum line. This goes straight to the manifold, so this will read manifold
manifold vacuum and boost, which is perfect. And I also have this other brass vacuum tee. That nipple right there will be small enough to fit the vacuum line that came with the gauge. And then we got our wiring harness. I'm just gonna run a little antifuse on the fuse panel down there behind the little coin holder thing in these cars, which is right here. If you pull this out, you can see the fuses back there, even though it's kind of dark, but they're there. Then on this harness, I'm gonna have to double check, but I believe the white is power, black is ground, and then orange is for dimming if you wanna run that. But I'm just gonna run mine full brightness all the time. So I'm not gonna use the orange wire. And when I say add a fuse, I just mean these little things. They basically just have 2 blades in them. You add a fuse into the circuit, and then you crimp the wires for your gauge onto the crimps that are pre-installed onto these add fuses. So first things first, before I even cut or drill into that trim piece, I'm gonna get the trim for this gauge mount cut, and then I'm gonna get it mounted onto my spare one that I have here out of the car, and then we're just gonna install this one into the car.
For those of you that watch my videos all the time and you saw the whole STI build, you would know that I'm all about building quality stuff. I'm gonna be honest on this one. This is not the best quality,
But honestly, neither is this car. So who cares? I finished up the mount for the gauge pod. The screws I put in the front were a little bit too big, so it cracked it open. Screws in the back were perfect because there's actually slots for it. I shaved the back down, and it's not even by any means, but it will clear on the back there. And then the vacuum line and the wire harness are gonna run through that bottom hole where the old park switch was, and she's gonna sit just like that. So it's gonna work, and it's gonna be functional. That's all that matters. It doesn't have to look pretty in this car, because this car is not very pretty, to be honest with you. Sick, boys. We got the boost gauge completely installed. I got that 3T fitting installed right there. Vacuum line going all the way to the boost gauge. I ran it down through the firewall by the fuel lines because the previous owner already poked a hole in there. So I ran it through that hole, pulled the old vacuum line that was in there out, and now on the inside of the car, we finally have a boost gauge. And if I turn the key on, she should light up. Hey, let's go. Except for the fact that this looks brand new and the rest of the dash looks 40 years old. It's actually like 20 years old, but that's okay. At least we have a working boost gauge. Or wait, is it working? It's reading like 6 PSI when the car's off. What happens if I start it? Okay, it's reading vacuum. I don't know, it's only down 2 ticks on the vacuum. What the hell? Should be more than that. What happens if I rev it? It's like it's 6 PSI off. Shut it off, and she jumps right back up to 6 PSI. What the hell? Did I get a bad gauge? I know I have everything hooked up properly. And as you guys can see with the ignition, I have it going to a fuse that is powered by ignition. So when I turn the key, it comes on. If I turn the key off, it shuts off. So if you guys wanted to see what I did in the end here, I went to a 15 amp fuse in the middle there. It was the fuse for the radio, which had power with ignition. And then you guys could see my harness up there. The white wire is going to the fuse, which is power. And then I have my black wire going up to the ground, up above the fuse box there. I just had to pop back this whole trim panel, and then I was able to take the 12mm nut off, put a little circle ground on the wire, and bolt it up. And now she's mint. Except for the fact that our boost gauge is reading 6 PSI when the car's off. That's a little sus.
and it is getting late. Holy shit, I didn't know it was that late. It's 2:55 in the morning right now. Good thing it's Friday, so it's the weekend, but Lately, it seems like the only time I've had to actually work on cars is really, really late at night, and it's really messing up my sleep schedule for work, but I'm still trying to pump out videos for you guys, at least like one a week I'm trying to do, but it's tough sometimes. And I try not to stress over it because I only have 2,700 subscribers right now, I think. So it's not like any of you guys really probably care if I upload a video every week anyways. I don't know if you do. Let me know in the comments. But I'm trying. All of these videos are just one video for you guys, but this is like weeks upon weeks for me of waiting for parts and then working on the car when I have time. And yeah, YouTube's still fun, so I want to keep making videos. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna go to bed now. And then hopefully we get parts in this video and we can get this car back on the frickin' road. Mint. Let's put this frickin' thing back in the car. I am a lucky guy today. That almost fell into the water. But this side is completely done.
All right, now that we finally got everything together, I kind of eyeballed the camber on this side. This side, you can see it's kind of tucked. And then on this side, it is like flush. It's a little bit tucked. I got as close as I could because on these raceline coilovers, the slots for the lower strut bolts are actually oblong. So you can use a pry bar and pull your camber in and out with raceline coilovers in the back, which is kind of cool because usually these Subarus have no camber adjustment whatsoever in the back. The first time I put the wheel on, the wheel had so much positive camber, it looked ridiculous and it would have drove like shit. So I fixed that now. And the last thing we got to do to get this car back on four wheels is fill the diff fluid. So I went ahead just to make my life easier, since it seems like I'm doing diff fluid and tranny fluid changes all the time on jack stands. I bought a transfer pump. So you basically just put this end of the hose in my gear oil, which I have sitting over there, some Motul 7590. And then you put this end of the hose into the diff, and then you basically just pump it and it'll pull the fluid out of the container and push it into the diff. So let's see how good this thing works. It should take only like 0.8 to 1 liter of gear oil. We'll slap the fill plug in there now, get her tightened up, clean this off, and she's good to go. Let's get the most quiet cold start for the boys you've ever heard. What the hell is that noise? Oh, I bet you I bent the backing plate. Hit it with a hammer. That always fixes it. Okay, that's pretty bad. I'm gonna put you guys over here so you can actually listen to it. It's right on that wheel, right there. I think I know what the problem is.
Coming from that right rear corner. Another thing is my ABS lights on, so I probably messed up the wheel speed sensor, because that's just my luck. Oh my god, I think it's still making noise. And for some reason, our wheel speed sensor got absolutely annihilated inside. That's the end that is supposed to read the tone ring. The tone ring's actually not a part of the axle, so the axle had nothing to do with it. But me pounding the axle in could have possibly just shook this up and busted it inside. So that was definitely rubbing on something, but I think we still got a little bit of a noise. I just cut the wheel speed sensor off for now. I'll order a new one, I guess. Or I'll drive with the ABS light on. I haven't decided yet. It's a beater. So we'll see how much a wheel speed sensor is. I can still hear it, but it's so minor now. It's like barely there. Let's go a little bit faster, see what happens. So I'm going 80 kilometers an hour right now, and I can hear it just ticking away back there. Now we're going 100. And it's quiet now. It's gotta be that inner piece on the axle. But the wheel speed sensor is definitely rubbing because it's a lot quieter now. Well, I'm gonna have to figure this out another day because it is late right now. And our boost gauge works, but it is 5 PSI off for sure. I might have to return this one and get another one. Yeah, it's showing almost 20 PSI. 20 PSI stock in a WRX. That's 5 PSI off. That's gotta be hitting like 15. Actually, it sits at 6 PSI when the car's off. So that would mean around 14 and a half pounds of boost. That seems normal for a WRX, I think. Well, at least the car is back on 4 wheels now. I mean, we do gotta replace a wheel speed sensor, but that's okay. We'll get it fixed. Just not in today's video. One more thing I want to mention before I end this video. Whoever put this wheel speed sensor in, I hate you. You broke the bolt that actually mounts the wheel speed sensor, and then you slammed a self-tapper screw in there. Which, good on you for getting a screw to go into a broken bolt. I'm not sure how you got that. So this is what the guy used to put that wheel speed sensor in. And I had to cut the head off of it because it was a Phillips head, and then use vice grips to get it off. And that was not fun. And it's not going to be fun to replace because I got to drill the old bolt out. So we made a lot of progress in this video. It was over a couple weeks because, like I said, I've been working really late at night to get stuff done and get some videos pumped out for you guys. It is now 1:52 in the morning, so that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, we got a new head unit for this car, and I'm excited to get it installed. So that is it for this video. Peace out, you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.